What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Underdog Podcast. Today, we have to break down a lot of things that happened over the last 2 days in the NFL. So we have Calvin Ridley getting suspended for an entire season. We have Aaron Rodgers coming back to Green Bay, becoming the highest paid player in NFL history. And then we have Russell Wilson getting traded to the Denver Broncos. So we'll go in that order because those are the order that the events happen. So let's just get right into it. Let's talk about Calvin Ridley. So Calvin Ridley gets suspended 1 year for betting on games. It's sad. Really sad because a lot of people are like, he's getting a year? Like, that's just kind of a lot. And I think when you look at it in this perspective is the NFL wants to hold the integrity of the game. And as a player, you betting on games is diminishing the integrity of that game. So they want to make an example out of Calvin Ridley and suspend him an entire year. Now, I agree with that. I don't agree with how, like, in the past they have, like, reduced suspensions for domestic violence, like Ray Rice getting 2 games for beating up his fiance, and Greg Hardy getting, I think it was like 4 or 6 reduced from 10 for beating up his girlfriend. Like AP only got like 6 games for child abuse and stuff like that. Like that stuff needs to change, man. I don't have a problem with Calvin Ridley getting a year because you should not bet on games while you're a player, while you're a coach. I mean, Pete Rose taught you that. Like, Pete Rose is in the Hall of Fame because he bet on games. So I think that's probably the the biggest example that I can think of betting on games is Pete Rose. So Calvin Ridley said he only bet $1,500, but even still, like, you bet $1,500 to lose out on $11 million this season, and you weren't going to play for Atlanta. You were probably going to get traded and play somewhere else. So it's just sad to see, especially a guy as talented as Calvin Ridley. Kind of what he went through, last season with the whole mental health thing. I don't know if gambling is tied to that. He said he doesn't have a gambling problem, so I'll take his word for it. Now at least, so I don't know if it was what his mental health situation was, but I do hope he gets help. I do hope he learns from this, and I do hope he gets another chance in the league, which I think he will, but you never know with this kind of stuff. Like, he's certainly got the talent, just made a stupid mistake. So hopefully Calvin Ridley gets back in the NFL, but it is serious. Like, the NFL does not want people doing this. That's why you see the heavy suspension they laid out on Calvin Ridley. So that's my thoughts on the Calvin Ridley situation. Is yes, he deserves 17 games. The NFL needs to change the way they suspend for domestic violence and issues towards that. And they are trying to make an example out of Calvin Ridley because they don't want players or coaches betting on their games. So now let's go to Aaron Rodgers. And I will say it from this standpoint. I do not have a problem with Aaron Rodgers getting his money. Because he has earned his money from being a 2-time, back-to-back MVP. I think it's his 3rd or 4th. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is the narrative that he tried to put out at the beginning of the preseason last year. He had this 30-minute press conference, which if you have not watched, you should. I'll put in the link in the description because everything he said was true except for what I'm about to tell you now. So he basically laid into the Packers front office about how the decisions they have made in the last, pretty much since they won the last Super Bowl, like, has affected their team. Like, letting veterans go like Charles Woodson, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Nick Perry, Julius Peppers, on top of that. And then, like, decisions they made, like, at the beginning of seasons, like cutting Jake Kumaro, stuff like that, cutting Clay Matthews, kind of things like that. How he did not, like that idea or didn't like that he wasn't like involved in those talks, I guess. And he talked about how he wasn't used as an asset for free agency. Like people were hitting him up saying, "Yo, I want to come play Green Bay. I want to come play with you. Win a Super Bowl." And then like the front office ignored him, which was totally 100% justified because the Packers front office has been trash drafting free agency. They have not made the moves that they should to win Super Bowls. They should have won like 2 or 3 by now, but they haven't. But then he said, talks would have been last February or March. He said the front office was like, okay, let's try and throw some money at him now. And then he said it was never about the money. So then why are you now seeking to be the highest paid player and now are the highest paid player in NFL history? There's kind of a disconnect there. If it was about both, that's fine, but he didn't come out and say that. So that's what I have a problem with Aaron Rodgers, is the fact that he did not initially come out and say, yes, it's about the money. And I think I was talking on Twitter with somebody about this, and they said that, Rodgers was never worried about, the money because he knows his value. Well, clearly the Packers didn't, because they weren't paying him that to begin with. I mean, they were looking to, get off him and go to Jordan Love. But now he's back in Green Bay. Devontae Adams is franchise tagged. It looks like they're going to release Zadarius Smith. And, the Packers are kind of, they're in a win now mode. So we'll kind of see the moves that they make. I don't think they're going to keep Devondre Campbell. I don't think they're going to keep Rasul Douglas, because Aaron Rodgers is like 25% of the cap now, I think, because he's getting $153 million guaranteed and then $200 million. So his cap hit's probably close to $50 million. So and the salary cap's like $202, and then Devontae Adams' tag I think is like close to $20. So you have 2 players taking $70 million of your $202 million cap space, which is ridiculous. And I don't think you can win like that. And he wants MVS back, so I think MVS is going to come back. But then, like, what are you going to do after that? Like, who are they going to bring in free agency? Who are they going to draft? It's going to be very interesting to see the Packers. But I just personally think that Rodgers is just very selfish. Talking about, which last year with his press conference, I agreed with everything he said. But then to contradict yourself and come back and say, okay, it is about the money now. Like, I don't, why? Like, what is it? Like, I understand that, like, you win back-to-back MVPs, you want that money, which is, like, totally, like, okay, but it's the fact that you originally said it wasn't about the money, and now that it is, that I have a problem with personally. But we'll kind of see how it all works out with Aaron Rodgers. And now to the big news. Now to the big news of yesterday, something that I thought would not happen. It is the Russell Wilson trade to the Denver Broncos. I did not think this was going to happen. I did not think that Russell Wilson was going to get traded this season at all. Personally, he always just seemed like a guy that would stay in, Seattle forever. And he's like done everything for Seattle, taking them to 2 Super Bowls, won 1. Patriots killed the Seahawks dynasty, by the way, just throwing that out there. But all jokes aside, this trade I think has the potential to be a win-win for both sides. So let's look at Denver's side. Denver's side, the one piece they've been missing is quarterback. And you get besides from last season, an elite quarterback in Russell Wilson. And Nathaniel Hackett, I think, is a great coach and is going to put Russell Wilson and this team in a position to win and get them an offense that will win them games. So you plug in Russ, and I think they got a 4th rounder as well, which is what I said they would get. Russ becomes an immediate impact. That AFC West is absolutely stacked. Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr. That is absolutely insane division. There was a tweet yesterday that I saw. It was like Derek Carr has to be the best, quarterback ever to be the worst quarterback in his division. And I agree with that statement, man. That division is going to be absolutely nuts next season. So then Denver gave up their first round pick this year, which is number 9, their second round pick, which is 40th, their first and second next year, their 5th this year, and then Seattle gave them a 4th. So for those picks, Denver fans shouldn't really be mad about the assets they gave up, besides maybe the 9 this year, but they were going to have to give that up anyways. So if you look at it this way, 2023's picks for Denver are probably going to be 20 or higher. So you're really not like you're not picking in the top 10. And that second round pick won't be a top 50 pick. So you have that going for you as Denver. And I think Denver's truly like a Super Bowl contender next year. They're going to need to rework that defense, get a pass rush, get some more linebackers, because I think Alexander Johnson, Josie Jewell probably going to walk in free agency. And then they got to re-sign maybe some of their corners and upgrade that corner position and then get a second safety next to Simmons. So I think their offense is good. Like their offense, you don't need any more work. Your defense is where you need to work to really put that team as a true like top 3 Super Bowl contender. And then the Broncos also gave away Shelby Harris, who is a great veteran leader on defense, but he's 31 or is turning 31 and is a free agent in 2024. So I like Shelby Harris. I think he's a really underrated player. But I think it's not really like a big loss that you gave him up. And then they also gave up Noah Fant, who I did not think would be a part of that deal. I was really surprised. But that's a really good asset for Seattle. Good young tight end, especially with Everett and Disley being free agents. But I think Denver was willing to give that up because of what they think Albert Okwuegbunam could be. Very similar player. He's taller and lengthier than Noah Fant, but he's not quite as fast. But Albert O's a solid tight end. I mean, they'll be fine with him. And then they also gave up Drew Lock, who really hadn't worked out. I'm interested to see what he's going to do in Seattle because I was very high on Drew Lock. When he came out, I thought he was the second best quarterback in that class, but he hasn't panned out at this point, so we'll see what he can do in Seattle. So for Denver, I think they're immediately in. They're at least, at minimum, the race for the NFC West. I think they're a playoff team next year. And they could make a Super Bowl run. We'll see the other moves they make in free agency, but this is a great start. Kind of similar to like what, LA did last year for Matt Stafford, and said they had a solid quarterback in Jared Goff, and we're like, no, we're going to go get Matthew Stafford, and they won a Super Bowl. So maybe it works out that way for Denver, maybe it doesn't, but still a great move in my opinion. Then we go to the Seahawks perspective. So Russ did not want to play for them. At least that's what it seems like. And from what I heard from Colin Cowherd's show and other people is that it started with back in 2018 when they went and saw Josh Allen for his pro day at Wyoming. And Russ was not happy about that. So the relationship has been strained ever since. And they had a problem with Pete Carroll's offense where it was too like 1990s run-centric heavy, too run-centric heavy, stuff like that. So then you look at Seattle's perspective. So they have the 9th pick now in this draft, and I've heard they really like Malik Willis. If I am the GM in Seattle, I'm not taking Malik Willis because, look, you have Drew Lock and Geno Smith as your quarterbacks this next season. Geno's a free agent, but I would assume they bring him back because he knows the system and stuff like that. So you're not going to win anyways. That defense is terrible. Shelby Harris actually is going to really help them stop the run, which has been, they've been okay at, but not great. And they also released Bobby Wagner, saves them $16.6 million in cap space. So that's another big guy you have against both the run and the pass. And he's an underrated blitzer. So you have probably the best player you've had on defense for the last decade. You lost him too, along with your best offensive player you've had for the last decade. So I don't think they should take Malik Willis at 9 because really, if you think about it, Seattle is in no position to win. They have Denver's first round pick next year, and I think they have their own. I don't think that the Jets have it in the deal. I think it was just last year and this year. So that pick's probably going to be top 3 to 5 next year with the way, depending on the move Seattle makes in free agency and what they do in the draft. So why would you take Malik Willis when you could take, who's a 2-year project, minimum in my opinion, and you just maybe see what Drew Lock can do for 17 games, and then you take Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, whoever's available at your pick next season, because they're like miles ahead of where these quarterbacks are in this draft, in my opinion. So why wouldn't you do that? I think because Seattle has really not had the greatest track record of picks. Like, their first and second round picks have been just absolutely awful for like almost a decade. Like, it is terrible, like what they have done in the draft over the last like 8, 9, 10 years. Let me see if I can find this tweet. So this is their top 50 picks since 2013 for Seattle. You have Jordan Brooks, who's a solid linebacker. I think he's probably one of the better players they've taken, but really hasn't like broken out yet. LJ Collier, who was a terrible pick at 20, whatever he was, awful pick bust. Rashad Penny, when he's on the field, is great, but he has not been on the field for the 4 years he's been here. Jermaine Ifedi, trash pick. Darrell Taylor has not done anything for them. Marquise Blair, bad pick. Malik McDowell has been okay. He's on Cleveland now, I believe. Jerron Reed has been probably their best pick. And I don't even know if he's on the team anymore. He might not be on the team. And then Paul Richardson, who was absolutely trash. So for Seattle to win, or at least come out of this trade like decently, they need to actually like hit on some picks, because they have not hit on any of their picks in a long time. Like, they're like, the reason why they were Super Bowl contenders for a long time was because they hit on not only their first but late round picks as well. Like, they need to like hit on some picks in order for them to win this trade. But I don't think Seattle got entirely fleeced. It depends on how they draft, whether or not they're going to get fleeced, in my opinion. So we'll see kind of how that works out. And, you know, for them. But it was a crazy day yesterday. I could not believe that Russell Wilson got traded. And then they released Bobby Wagner, which is nuts. I mean, check in on your Seahawks fans, man. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about this. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to come out with a video on the players' franchise tag and what I kind of think of the franchise tag. The players that were franchise tagged, should they have franchise tagged them, should they have not, and maybe some players that were candidates that didn't get franchise tagged. And then next week, I will have my mock draft coming out, and maybe this weekend I'll do something on the Combine. So I was supposed to do videos on that, and just school kind of got in the way. Maybe 5 winners and losers of the Combine of days 2, 3, and 4. So I'd probably have like, you know, five winners from those 3 days and then 5 losers. So that's kind of what's coming up. But next week I will have my mock draft 2.0. Now that we have this big trade with Russell Wilson, free agency's coming next week, I think. I think it's actually next Thursday. So I'm really excited for that. So everybody stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of content coming next week and the week after that with free agency. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Man, the NFL it's king, man. The NFL is king. No doubt about it. So thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned for more content. Have a great day and peace.